Hello and welcome back to Mystery in Time. My name is Alma and I will be your guide through this case, the Manhattan Well murder. We hope you've had a fantastic week, a cracking weekend, and you're recovering well this morning. A couple of things to note before we get moving on. The Facebook link has been taken down. There's good reason for that. Secondly, yeah, I am aware I sit too close to the camera sometimes, but you see, that's just because I want to hug you so much. And the other thing is the chair. Don't like it either, and it gives me numb bum. It's too high, so I'll get a short chair soon. The camera, I need a new recording device. We're getting onto that, and we'll get one as soon as we can. We hear the crackling too. And I want to give a shout out to Saren. Boo. I need a piece of art for my wall. Saren, I hear you're very good at it. And I was thinking something with lots of colour, lots of squiggly lines, and maybe some sparkles. Yay! Okay, don't forget guys, the link to the entire, see what I mean? The link to the entire transcript, schnitzels. The link to the transcript of the entire trial is in the description box down below. Go and check it out. Right, we're off to 208 Greenwich Street and we have read through the statements, and I can tell you now there is some serious schnitzels going on in there. Lucky when stepping onto the docks of Manhattan, perhaps you would find yourself walking along the dirt and gravel road of 1799 middle-class Greenwich Street, and perchance you would have happened upon number 208, a typical Quaker boarding house located in what is now Greenwich Village. It stood but 3 stories high that we know of, and was made of wooden slats, a shingled roof, and a creaky double latched door. In this finest establishment there had been many lodgers and boarders over the years, but today we will concern ourselves with only those who were living there during Elma's last days. Levi Weeks was a carpenter and the 24-year-old younger brother of the famous Manhattan architect Mr. Ezra Weeks. And that's who Levi worked for. Levi took up boarding in the Ring boarding house in July of 1799. Alma had been there some 3 years. It was initially believed that Levi had intentions towards Margaret Clark and then Hope Sands, until eventually his eyes settled on our young Elma, giving him the persona of something what of a ladies' man. It is worthy of note, however, that this was merely conjecture and rumour, the suspicions of people around Elma and Levi. It isn't anything that Levi himself ever confessed to. Though, I think that being said, his actions, and they were witnessed by many of the residents of the Rings boarding house, they did tend to suggest that there was something going on between himself and Elma. Now, was that the actions of a man intent on getting himself another lover, or was it something more honourable altogether? Unfortunately, there's no original statement by Levi available to us, so we will just have to rely on the opinions of other people, though it was said to be he was a gentleman of impeccable character. It must be pleasing circumstance to this young man whose character on the trial appeared irreproachable and uncommonly amiable, and to his respectable connections, that he does not owe his acquittal to the eloquence of his counsel, but closely and entirely to the clear and unequivocal proof he produced of his innocence. So let's talk about Elma. Now, before I say much on Elma, I want everybody to bear in mind that in 1799 Manhattan, they were in the grip of the yellow fever epidemic, and a substance called laudanum, that stuff, was used to relieve the symptoms. Okay, so it was commonly used back then, not just by Alma herself, but she did use it a lot, and especially in the last year of her life. But then, you know, so did everybody else. So in no way should she be singled out for it. What is laudanum? Well, I'm going to put the glasses on again, so because I want to get this right, because I'm not by any means an expert in this. Laudanum is an alcoholic solution containing morphine, prepared from opium and formerly used as a narcotic painkiller. Historically contained all the opium alkaloids and was freely used, without prescription, in 1799. The common side effects are euphoria, addiction, dysphoria, sedation, constipation, reduced tidal volume, and, listen to this, respiratory depression. Remember the doctor spoke about an unusual colour of countenance, and that can sometimes be brought about by increased carbon dioxide in the system. It's worth remembering, it could be something. Elma was known to be a pretty young woman, and although she lived with Catherine and Elias Ring, who were both Quakers, she wasn't, or didn't seem interested in becoming one of them. She was a bit of a free spirit, really, at 22 years old. Catherine demonstrated to the court that Elma was a girl of a cheerful disposition and not really given to bouts of melancholy or depression, and both Elma and Levi were given considerable freedom in a relationship that they were perceived to be having by all. On the night that Elma disappeared, she was in her room getting dressed in her finest garments, or whatever she could borrow. Elma's marriage was supposed to be a secret between her and Levi, according to Elma, and she only confided in Hope Sands and Catherine. But it wasn't to be spoken about. It was to be kept a secret because Levi wouldn't approve. Catherine Ring had taken Levi out of Manhattan for about 6 weeks, and it basically was to escape the pressure of the epidemic of yellow fever. Now, during her time away, she received a letter from Elias asking her to come home because he was getting a wee bit lonesome. And after she returned to the boarding house, she noticed that Levi and Alma were paying particular attention to each other, and it appeared to her that the feeling was mutual. She even went so far as to say that he'd spent several nights alone with her in her room. And Levi had apparently not trusted anybody to look after Elma whenever she wasn't well, not even Hope. Here's the issue I have around this. Levi Weeks had only been resident in the boarding house for about 5 months, and Catherine and Elias are okay with Levi spending several nights alone with Elma in her own room, and nobody does anything.
And nobody says, you know, like, you can't be at that. I mean, they had known Elma all their lives. And this guy comes along, and in 5 months he's spending the nights in a room. I mean, you're going to say, things were different back then. But were they so different that they did not feel a duty of care towards Elma? There's another piece of evidence that Catherine gives in court that I would like to bring to your attention, and it's really around the night that Elma disappeared, just before. And she said this in court. After tea, I proposed borrowing a muff for her at one of her neighbours. She said she would go herself, and went and got it. A while later she went to the front door and leaned over it, which I soon observed. I told her that I was afraid she would take cold. She followed me in, where was 2 young men of the family, Russell and Lacey, with my husband. We all sat together till Levi came in. I then went to the front door and leaned over it. Soon after the young men came out and went upstairs to bed, at which time I heard the clock strike 8. After they had gone upstairs, I shut the door and came in, saying the clock has just struck 8. And later on in her evidence, Catherine said something else which, you know, I think we should really pay attention to. She said she left Elma just ready to come down. Just coming down, she came down almost instantly. I came down, there's a lot of downs, and left her in the room and came in where Elias and Levi were sitting. No other person was up in the house but we 4. I set the candle down over the fireplace. Levi instantly took his hat and went out into the entry. The moment the door opened, I heard a walking on the stairs, and directly I heard a whispering near the door. At the bottom of the stairs for nearly a minute, but so near the door I thought I might understand what was said, and I listened for that purpose. Soon I heard them step along, and the front door opened, and the latch fell. I took up the candle and run to the door to see which way they went. It was moonlight, but having a candle made it darker. Wow, what have we just learned there, my goodness. Well, the good thing is we have been given a time frame. It's the start of our time frame when Elma may have disappeared, and that currently sits at around 8:10. But here's the thing. Catherine doesn't know that Elma left with Levi, because she didn't actually see Elma leave with Levi. What she saw was Levi leave the sitting area, go out the door, close the door, and what she heard was a set of footsteps coming down the stairs. She doesn't know that was Elma. So finally for this episode we have Elias' ring, and really all there is to say about Elias is that he basically concurs with what Catherine testified to. The only odd thing about Elias is that on a couple of occasions he had to be removed from the courtroom because he kept sneaking in to hear what Catherine was saying. Very odd behaviour. And there is one other bit of information, but I'm going to leave that to, I think, the next episode. And it kind of gives you a bit of light on what Elias may or may not have been doing while Catherine was out of the city.